Friday. Okay, cool. Everyone else doing okay? I didn't even see Chase come in. You a lab or something?
Yes, I do.
Cross your arms, just stare at whoever comes in. Take your time.
It was the bus's fault.
Huh?
It was the bus.
For poor planning? Okay, no Thomas, no Cole, Chase. Smiling in the back.
It's only 2 minutes.
Hey, you were just talking
She's
about
entirely
optimism.
too nice. Huh?
You were just talking about optimism. She's being optimistic.
Yeah, she's really not. You frogged in, right?
No,
You didn't?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
I think you were confusing me with my roommate.
Who? Which is who?
Mom?
Penny?
Yeah,
Yeah, she frogged in.
she brought me.
Everyone hated yelling at her because she's really nice. Most of you guys, they don't care. Okay. Did you get yelled at, Eliza Fish? Yeah. You don't know. Talk. I like if who am I picking on? Would you go up and yell like? Do you yell up people?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, there was one time like I couldn't see their AMU, so I was like, "Would you mind bending down?" And, like,
I was losing. I was starting to laugh my ass off.
he kept burying, and then after I was like, "I appreciate that," and then I just left him alone.
Cole, is there anybody else think about contracting? Join the military? Okay, I'll save it for another day then. If you can get, like when you're going to officer candidate school or basic training, if you can get the training instructors to laugh, you won. Okay, because it's almost impossible. I did that at survival school too. We'll save that for another day. Okay, what did you guys write about in your discussion posts? Days ago, literally like last night. Okay, was probably when you did it. Okay. Exactly. Okay. What do we write about? What do you wish that you knew when you were an underclassman? There's a few central themes. Casey, here's what's good.
I passed up on a lot of possible relationships that I could have built.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess now I'm just trying to focus on taking every opportunity I have to build those here on out.
Yeah, multiples of you guys wrote about relationships. Yeah, good. What else? Zach?
I wrote about not necessarily paying so much mind to what other people think is important.
Another common theme.
And paying attention to what I think is important.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of you guys did things that you thought people would tell you to do, and then other things suffered, whether it was school or time on the quad or other groups or whatever. A lot of you wrote about that. Okay. Good. What else?
It was nice not having any real responsibility as a fish and just being able to worry about yourself and your own grades.
Yeah, several of you were about like, man, I was so stressed out fish year, and then it got worse. Right? Like it got harder, but you thought fish year was hard. Right? Okay. Good. What else? Huh?
I wrote about taking things at my own pace because I remember trying to take Math 152
Yeah.
semester freshman year. Horrible decision and all that engineering.
100 level, and it was that hard? What was it? What was the class?
It was like calculus 2.
Ah, okay. Sounds awful. My classes are way better. However, it is much easier to learn calculus than it is good leadership. 100%. I can teach anybody calculus. I can learn calculus. I've never had a calc class. There's rules, right? Yeah. It's just how hard you try. But trying to make you an ethical leader, far more difficult. There's no rules. There's no checklist. And there's 10 million books you can read. Doesn't mean you'll be a good ethical leader. I don't know if you believe me or not. Good. What else? What else did you write about? It's one main theme we haven't touched on. Well, you kind of did. What do you wish you spent more time on or more dedicated towards?
School.
Huh?
School.
Some of you are like, never crossed my mind. Yeah, never crossed your mind, did it?
No, I was gonna say little. Skip a few classes. Like I skipped a class to go parachuting one time.
Okay, now this is true. Like you guys are on both ends of the spectrum. Some of you dove into school, and then other things suffered, right? Like relationships, friendships, things like that, getting to know other people outside organizations. Some of you were like, it was all quad, right? It was all core. Or I let other things distract me from school. Most of you, like, who, high school was easy for you? Raise your hand. How many of you, when you got here, took a pretty serious hit academically? Woke you up, right? Or was it because you didn't try, or was it because it was literally that much harder?
I didn't try.
Didn't try. Okay. Chase, you're nodding.
It's kind of both.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I
Casey?
watched a thing talking about people that go through like high school on like just easy mode. They get to college and it's not that they're not trying or that it's just like super hard, but it's like you have to like know how to study and you never had to learn how to do that before, so you're
Yeah.
kind of trying to catch up a little bit.
Absolutely.
So
I never knew how to study, even as an undergrad. I still didn't really know how to do it. Nobody taught me. Wasn't that hard. I didn't try very hard in high school, but wasn't very hard either. Is it new? I hate when ring day happens. I love it. I'm proud of you guys, but that happens all day long. Yeah. Who did not know how to study when they got here? Who still is learning? Okay, good. You're not learning. Okay. The reason I do that, I kind of did that as an experiment once, and I actually found it impressive and insightful. Just really irritating. You guys said really cool stuff. You really did. You said thoughtful things. You said helpful things. The funniest shit ever is that people probably told you those things in your life, and you're like, nah, I'm good. You don't listen to your parents for quite a while. Okay, you'll come back around. Some of you already have. Some of you would be a few years. But you'll be like, oh, yeah, they were right. So don't forget that. Okay, sometimes people are trying to help you because they can see from the outside. Normally I teach all three sections the same time as I'm teaching 42. I teach 381 with the juniors, and I teach 281 with the sophomores. I don't have any sophomore sections right now. But if you are interested, what I will do is offer that up to the other 281 instructors. If you would like to go and talk to sophomores and tell them about what you wrote, because they will listen to you, especially if they don't know you, right? If it's your own outfit, it's all the same, right? More or less, you kind of think alike or you've heard it before. If they don't know you, because there's a year apart and you're not in their outfit, they actually listen to you guys. It is fascinating, right? And they will actually ask you really good questions because they're still thirsty sophomores. Really, like teaching sophomores is really interesting because they want to know, they want information. You guys are like, I'm good, I'm ready to leave. Okay, right up until we get to graduation. Okay. So if you're interested in that, please let me know, and I am going to reach out to the sophomore instructors. Okay, shifting gears. Had something I want to work on, but I'm not done putting it together yet. And we had some people out, and I think it's too valuable, so we're going to do it next week. What we're going to do today is a discussion that we kind of had the other day when I asked, if someone used nuclear weapons on us, would you respond with nuclear weapons? And the world has taken a shitstorm turn since then, hasn't it? What are we going to do? What's the solution with Russia and Ukraine? What are your thoughts? What are your questions? What are your worries? I'd like to talk about it in class today. Not all at once. Aristotle, what do you got?
I mean, I say nuke them. They're a pain in the ass. They're
Preemptively?
no. I'm
If
saying,
they
like,
use
if
nukes on
they use
Ukraine?
even one nuke.
If they use a nuclear weapon on the Ukraine,
Singular nuke.
then
They go, not only us, but the whole world. Even one of the senators said something how there wouldn't be a Russian Federation anymore.
They used a vacuum bomb,
Yeah, they did use a vacuum bomb.
which is in
supposedly,
direct violation of the Geneva.
correct, yeah, there's supposedly, but keep in mind, almost everything that you're seeing like on Twitter has come out to be fake. Videos, claims, there's a lot of fake information happening, so be careful.
Like
Huh?
the hitting stuff like in Ukraine and like the damages and all of that.
There's stuff happening, but a lot of the things that are on Twitter, like first they said all the 13 sailors on the island were killed, they're alive. Yeah, and I think they've already been released. I'm not sure. They've already done some prisoner
Those guys
exchanges.
are war heroes.
Huh?
Those guys are war heroes.
They're
Hey, still saying.
God bless them for their attitude. Okay, but here, okay, backing up. You want to nuke Russia?
Yeah.
Okay, if they use a nuclear weapon. Anyone else? Raise your hand. Yes, you do? Why? Why?
So, like yesterday or something, a spokesperson for Russia just came out saying we're going to drop ISS on the U.S.
Okay.
So, like, that's just more tension being brought upon Russia. And it's like, if you're going to nuke us, you deserve it
Okay.
or more.
Okay. I'm not sure what's more than the end of the world, but
Well, if you send enough of them, they can't stop all of them.
Yeah.
do you know how many they
I
have?
know we have a crap ton, and I know the world has a crap ton. If you send enough of them all at once, who coordinates that?
What's the outcome? Huh? That's not the only thing that happens.
Yeah, nuclear fallout. That's on the other side of Florida.
It's not. That's the point. Right? Do I have any nukes in here? Any nuke majors? I love when I have nuclear engineers because I learn a lot of things.
But I also think nobody has the balls to actually push the button to drop a nuke.
Because it's the end of the world.
I know, but that's what I'm also saying. Is like I also don't think anybody will ever do it.
Okay. Zach, you had your hand up.
I would say yes, because if you know that someone else will retaliate the same way, that's a deterrent. So the mutually assured destruction is the deterrent. So if you're not willing to launch a nuke in response, then there's no deterrent.
How do you know?
Because
How do you know what their intent is? You said if you know what they're going to do, then you do it. How do you know?
if they launch a nuke at you, and you have said, if you launch a nuke at our country, we will nuke you back, then they know mutually assured destruction. That
Okay.
helps protect the country.
So you're not doing it unless it's a response.
Yes.
Okay. Rylan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm with him. I wouldn't do it unless they did it first.
What if they fire on Ukraine? Nuclear weapon on Ukraine, not the U.S.
Oh. No.
No?
No.
Okay. Where are we at on that? No?
Absolutely not.
So I was like, I'm glad that we're not involved up until again, this vacuum bomb thing. I don't know how accurate that is. And then like, I guess I have drawn the line at like bombing civilians
Mm-hmm.
and just the civilian lives lost in this like vacuum bomb thing, which is another like war crime, human rights violation. And
Mhm.
that's where I'm like, I'm perfectly fine if we step in and try and stop Russia from killing more civilian lives, even if that's at the cost of
Okay.
the American military lives.
Well, I know I feel like after this, it kind of puts Russia as a joke because I feel like Ukrainians are able to like hold their own like pretty well. Like, I feel like nobody expected how well Ukraine was going to do in this, and so I feel like with Russia like not being able to take it over so quickly,
Mhm.
no one's going to take Russia very seriously, and that's what makes Putin mad.
So what happens from there?
I don't know. That's when the leader becomes very volatile, and a lot of stuff can happen very quickly.
Correct. Who does not? So let's say they. Okay, so let's back up. They fire a nuclear weapon on the Ukraine. Do we respond with nuclear weapons? Who's in favor of that? Anyone? Okay, so if it's only the Ukraine, we're good. Okay, all right. If they do that, who wants U.S. intervention? Sounds like Mike's talking about it. Okay. If they use a nuclear weapon, what if they do not? Who thinks we should be involved already? Anybody?
We kind of are.
Directly. I mean, boots on the ground.
I would
Does
be-
anyone want that?
I would be okay with that at this point in time.
Okay.
I don't know if I want that.
Okay, why not? Explain it.
I mean, that's you're putting American lives at risk and then American welfare at risk, and then
Mhm.
we're getting involved with something that China probably jumps in if that happens.
No, China doesn't jump in on Taiwan.
Yeah. So then
So that's another issue. We'll get to that.
I guess is a whole other aspect of that we probably don't want
Why not?
because it'd be a shit show
Yeah.
and really scary.
I think, don't know, minute that the U.S. is involved, and if Americans and Russians are shooting each other, that's when you have World War III. And that's when it gets real bad, really quickly. I think, and I don't know, and I don't want to influence you guys at all. I think if Russia goes after a NATO country, it gets real bad, real quick.
Isn't Ukraine kind of being supported by NATO?
They are. So they are not a NATO country, and they're not in the European Union. The EU today announced that they are moving rapidly to possibly allow Ukraine to join the European Union.
Well, that's kind of like that's what's making Russia pissed off is
Yeah.
Ukraine possibly joining NATO because it's a lot of Western civilization.
Correct.
They don't want that to be lost.
Correct. Does anyone not understand why they're invading? Does anyone have questions about why they invaded?
I still have a little bit question about it. I heard about like how the Ukraine were like letting the NATO kind of involved in like stuff around
Mhm.
between like Ukraine and Russia sees that as like kind of like dangerous on their territory, so they're like, yeah, we're not letting this happen. Like, finish.
Because that used to belong to the USSR. Before you were even born, the USSR had control of other countries. This is like a playbook out of what Hitler did, right? When he took over in Romania, there was no response, right? They took over what they called the Rhineland. The Germans thought it was theirs, and he went in and took it back. And the rest of the world basically let him do it, which he was paranoid about. He didn't know how they were going to respond. And when they didn't do anything, that's when he kept going, right? So the playbook has shifted. Right? So I think Putin thought, I'm going to go in and grab it. It used to belong to the USSR. It used to be a Soviet state. Now it's not. It's a Western state. He does not like that. The rumor is he really only wants part of it. He wants to put in a puppet organization so that they're favorable to Moscow. And he gets what he wants out of it. I don't believe we will fight Russia over the Ukraine. It's my belief. I mean, we had troops there training and pulled them out. Lenny.
There's kind of a part of me that sides with you on that, and like you said, how the violence can escalate very quickly, especially if you get involved. Like that, I'm thinking like that part of me wants to say that that's not our problem. That's not our soldiers' lives to go over there. Let's just stay out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's another side of me, like you said, if we just sit idly by and let it happen, then it's kind of like that slippery slope. You know, what happens with China and Taiwan? What happens with Putin? Does he keep going and going? And then does it get out of hand to where if we said, oh, we could have stopped this like right when it started? So it's kind of like it's a tough decision either way. I think it can go bad really quickly no matter what decision you make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Michael?
What is like the closest NATO country they would like attack?
There's several right around along the border stuff too. Poland's a NATO country. Yeah. Yeah, there's several all around there. Belarus is kind of the wild card.
I thought Russia took that over.
Yeah, I mean, they're favorable to Russia, so they're going to lean that way.
But they're a NATO country or?
Belarus is not, I don't believe. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, what other country did they take over besides Belarus? Did they take over another one?
What's that?
Crimea.
Yeah, they took over the Crimea, okay, which has long been back. There's been wars there for centuries, going back and forth. Right?
Georgia, a couple ago as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So they've done stuff before, right? And people will kind of push back, and we kind of want it. Depends on what it is, what's valuable, what's there, who we're protecting, all that, right? So we have to Lenny's point. This is why this is a hard decision, okay? And guess you guys are next, right? Whether it's 9/11 or COVID or like in 5, 10, 15 years when something unexpected happens, it's up to you guys, right? Your generation is going to be the one to deal with it. You will be in positions to make these decisions. This is why it's harder than calculus, right? Whether it's your neighbors, whether it's your kids, right, that have to go and fight, whether it's you, whether it's your organization that's involved, right? It falls to you guys, which is why I want to give you the opportunity to talk about it today. Yes, sir.
What are the chances of like a Russia uprising? Since like they're recognizing like they're kind of getting clapped back by Ukraine, and like they're having a ton of
There has been, and that's really interesting because they're not allowed. They don't get to do that, and they're doing it. And now, again, it's really hard to decipher the information of what's. I don't care if it's a news site, right? There's sensationalization on all sides, right? So you have to filter out what's real and what's not, which is not always easy, and then you have to make decisions off information, right? If everything you're seeing and reading is true, the citizens of Russia are absolutely feeling this pinch. The ruble has dropped in value significantly. They're trying to get cash out. They can't. So it's getting hard on those citizens. And then, so their soccer team can't, nobody will play them right now for the World Cup. The sports world has actually reacted rather strongly, which is surprising. International Olympic Committee, who just let them compete after the Olympics, like, oh, no more Russians. They were all cheating anyway, allegedly. Okay. I mean, they had state-run cheating when the Olympics were in Russia a few years ago. They had an unbelievably sophisticated doping system going on. It's phenomenal, okay, of the extent they went to cheat to win medals at home, okay? And then the Russian figure skater pops positive. 15-year-old kid taking a heart medicine medication. Okay. Anyway, the sports world reacted too. World Cup's coming up. They said nobody will play Russia. There was a Russian owner of Chelsea football team, soccer team, and she gave up ownership because she didn't think it was right. So you're seeing it everywhere. Yeah, which is about I think I read it's worth about $42 million of their economy of like 1.7 trillion. So it's not a lot, but it is significant.
Their vodka's good too.
Buy Tito's, man. American made.
No, that's T-Sip vodka. Don't buy Tito's.
Tito's is so overrated.
I have a buddy lost it because Tito just gave. You know what Tito's real name is? His name is Burt Beverage. It's spelled different, but his name is Burt Beverage. That's amazing. But yeah, he gave $20 million to the T-Sips, and a buddy of mine who raised his money here is all mad. I'm like, go hit him up for some money. Casey.
The only thing I heard, like, financially was more so about, like, oil and stuff, how Germany's basically cut off, like, all oil and gas from Russia, and at this point, like, sure, we have sanctions, but, like, it's not really doing a ton, and so it might come to where we need to, like, cut off any supply from them at all, but then obviously, yeah, people here are gonna get mad, but it's like, bro, like, you got $4 gas for maybe 2 years at most, hopefully, I don't know, and yeah, so I think it's more of an economic thing.
And so what's the solution?
I mean, if it came down to cutting off, I'm fine with that, but like I know that's not really feasible right now, which is why Biden cutting off the pipeline wasn't really feasible either.
Okay.
But
Petroleum engineers? You have any here? Yeah, strike
I'm
out,
a
man.
petroleum engineer, but I still go to Antarctica. Go find some.
So do we lift the sanctions here and produce more of our own energy?
That's always.
I mean, I'm in Texas, so we're a little skewed here. So we build pipelines every day. All the time, pipelines are being built. Right? The reason the Keystone gets attention is because it crosses the international border. So we literally we pipe it to the border, we take it out, we ship it across the border in a different way, and then continue to put it in the pipeline. Right? So is energy independence the solution? Because that's where you really hit Russia economically. Okay, so what are you willing to pay in gas for that to happen?
I mean, I look at it this way. Gas was like $3.09 for a while. I was like, damn. And now it's like $3.30. But after about a week, I just got used to it, and so it didn't really bother me anymore.
So what does it go? So if you want produce our own, get off foreign dependency, what are you willing to pay?
Tesla.
I mean,
Motorcycle?
that's already planned. In my
Statistically not safe, but okay.
Those mopeds are real gas efficient.
Okay, all right, yeah, the Dumb and Dumber style.
We use motorcycles in Vietnam.
Right, yeah, because gas is how much is gas in Vietnam? Do you know?
I don't remember.
Most of the EU, it's like $8 or $9 a gallon.
That's why they got so many
They also have a lot more public transport.
Correct. Yeah, fewer people have cars, fewer people use cars. If they, you know, the smart car, the little tiny one.
Yeah.
You know, it's designed so you can parallel park it straight in. That's how small it is. You can just Does that help some of y'all who can't parallel park? Okay. I don't want to get in a wreck in one.
Everything's just too far away here. Like motorcycles wouldn't really fix anything.
This country's
So
built
small.
very differently than
Yeah.
obviously. Now, if you get to parts of the Northeast or big cities, yeah, it's different, and easier. But we love our cars. But what are you willing to pay? Because that's the question. If you're in charge, if you're running the show, if you're president or whatever, okay, or even relative, how much pressure are you willing to put on Americans for that?
I don't really know what the price would change by. Like I could say, oh, $5, but like who knows? It might jump up to 8 or 9.
Yeah. So where's your threshold? Like, what are we willing to do? Okay, if we don't want to launch nuclear weapons, if we don't want to go to war, and we're not gonna expand, right, with our energy production, what's your threshold? Do you know? Like, where are you cutting it? If gas is $8 a gallon, where are we at? What are we doing? Kenneth? Not doing it?
I'll pay it.
You'll pay it?
I'll pay $160 and fill up my truck.
Okay.
No, I mean, it would suck. I wouldn't like it, but would I do it in exchange for more energy independence?
Okay.
I think that's a worthwhile trade-off.
Does that factor in more so than other lives, people you don't even know in other countries? Well, what's the factor they're driving in?
I think the biggest factor driving my view on that is simply that I think it's important for the U.S. to be more independent.
Okay.
It
So
really-
less
it
about the
almost-
conflict?
It almost has nothing to do with it. Or,
Less about the conflict?
yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Lillian, where are we at? What are we doing? Okay, fair enough. So, what's the solution? Right now, what's going on? What do you guys want to see happen?
Nuclear power plants and more electric cars.
It's really, really, really hard to build a new nuclear power plant right now.
It is not very popular.
It's not very popular. Probably the most efficient energy production we have, and probably the safest. I'm not an expert, but one of the safest forms. But nobody wants to build them anymore. It's really, I don't even think you can in the U.S. right now. Bill Gates has been trying for years. They're smaller, they're safer, they're a lot better than. You know why Chernobyl happened? You know why Chernobyl blew up?
Somebody did pay attention or something, right?
Because some engineers they turned off a bunch of systems that said they couldn't to see if they could do it themselves. So they took it up to a threshold and they thought, well, let's see if we can bring it back down below this threshold on our own because we know how it runs. And then they didn't, and then it exploded. And it was supposed to be shut down for like 500 years, and life has come back around Chernobyl. Right? There's still a big building which the Russians apparently have. There's this big building still over the reactor, but life has returned there much faster than we thought it would, right? Which is pretty remarkable. So, what's the solution? What are you doing? If you're running the country right now, what are you doing? Andy?
I think the best thing to do is just stay out of it. Let the war run its course. Don't put boots on the ground and try and establish better infrastructure here in the U.S. Because like one thing like that is like I work in the oil fields over the summer,
Mm-hmm.
and after the Keystone got canceled, pretty much the work that I was doing, because I've been doing it since I was in high school, and after the Keystone got canceled, like the job market flooded with people.
Uh-huh.
Like people started getting paid a lot less money. The jobs people were doing drastically changed. So the people that were doing like more structural construction, like structural steel and things like that, all those people that used to have those jobs didn't have those jobs anymore.
Mhm.
Because they got all these people from Keystone area coming down with their own rigs, their own trucks, their own money, driving out those people. And now there's so many people in the market, they're not getting paid as much money as they used to. I think we started building again. It boosts the economy, give people a lot more jobs, help just drive the businesses around those areas, and plus we have our more independence when it comes to where we get our fuel from.
Okay.
And then hope that in that time period, gas prices don't skyrocket like above like $6 or $7, because if it stays below the $6 threshold, companies can still gain money.
Mm-hmm.
And if it goes over that, then you're just going to be hurting other businesses. But if we keep it to the point where Russia can't, where their dollar value, they can't function as a country, we need to just hold on longer so that they are forced to make a move before we have to. I think that's the best thing.
Okay, so when you say don't be involved, what about sanctions.
Yeah, I think that needs to continue.
Okay, so just, you don't want military involvement.
As far as direct military support going, like sending troops, but sending weapons, sending things like that,
Okay.
I think that needs to continue.
Not personnel, okay, but, and so in favor of the economic sanctions still?
Yes.
Anything else that we can do? Okay, who else? Guys are up next, you're gonna have to decide. Can't be Switzerland your whole lives. Huh?
They took a side, so Finland.
Finally, yeah, okay. So what are you gonna do? What should we do? This is the decision, the action gap. Okay, awareness, reasoning, decision, and then action. There's that gap in between that I showed you guys. Welcome to the real world. And I don't care the industry that you go into. You're gonna have some shit that happens in your careers, and you're gonna have to decide between really hard situations. So what do we do? What do you got, Frederick?
I think what we're doing now is pretty good.
Okay.
Frankly, we have no obligations to Ukraine, but we have obligations to our NATO partners. So
Okay.
I think we need to bolster our support there. And it seems like that's already kind of happening.
Okay.
A lot of countries are taking it more seriously and increasing their own support for NATO.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's a good step. Economically, I think we're on a good path right now. If it escalates even further, like if we find concrete evidence that Russia's committing war crimes, then we need to increase sanctions even more and isolate them. But I think currently the sanctions are sufficient
Okay.
in this manner. So I think we're on the right path right now.
Okay. Agree, disagree? Just nodding at me. What does that mean? You agree?
Yeah.
Alexander?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Who thinks we should be doing more? No? Leave it alone? Is where we're at?
I think we need more, it's kind of what everyone's been saying. Like, America needs to be totally independent. I just feel like Russia and China are not dependent on us, and they're the other two superpowers in the world. America's depending on the other two superpowers to function.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to, like, build up American strength, go full America, knock out supply from China and Russia,
Mm-hmm.
build up our, our own infrastructure and invest in ourselves.
Okay. We are the only country in the world that limits itself from its own natural resources. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's good for us, but, well, I mean, it's good for us as in we're managing it, but also being able to experience a higher growth or currency compared to other countries because they don't have limits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. What else? Did you say both, Zach? Why?
Because, I mean, on one hand, we can stop the environment from deteriorating around us. On the other hand, that's gonna limit growth.
Okay.
Especially like anywhere in the overlays, entitlements, whenever, I think that's what they're called. If you're trying to put in a corporate business, you have to do all sorts of surveys and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a ton of money.
Right. Yeah, we make it really hard. Whereas other countries will just, if they've got something worth it, they will mine it until it's gone. Good. Okay. Other questions? Anything on this? Yes, sir.
What do you think the chances are of a diplomatic resolution to this?
The fact that peace talks were taking place so quickly is encouraging to me. The fact that Ukraine has held out as long as they have is astonishing, in all actuality. I can't figure out if Russia is this disorganized and dysfunctional, or if they're literally just like fighting with one hand tied behind their back. I really can't tell. Because based on numbers, this should be overwhelming force to take over. It shouldn't have taken this long for them to accomplish goals. So I can't figure out why. I really don't know. Yes, sir.
I think it's because they don't really know why they're fighting. And
That's part of it. I mean, their soldiers are dying.
And also Ukraine has like something to like really fight for. And
Yeah.
So, and also like whenever they're coming to the cities, they don't know if somebody's in that house or something, and they're gonna get ambushed or something.
Yeah.
That's like been happening a lot. Is like they just wait in their house for a little bit longer until the whole convoy comes and they
The guerrilla warfare tactics have worked incredibly well, which is how we won the American Revolutionary War, if you want to know.
It's also kind of how we got our rear escape in Vietnam. I mean, it's kind of like that all over again. You got people fighting for their own country who actually know it, know how to operate within it, and you've got another country coming in trying to take it over with an overwhelming force, with higher technological improvements and advancements, and still not being able to do as much as they'd like to with it.
Yeah, in Vietnam, we never really committed,
Right.
and we learned a lot of mistakes. Fortunately,
Is actually committed to this right now? Like, do you think the actual military is some like more committed than we were in Vietnam, or do you think there's significant pushback from the actual civilians and everything within Russia that's causing them to have one hand tied behind the back, like you said?
so say that again. Do I think Russia's holding back?
Yeah, somewhat.
I think you touched on it as the motivation, right? And again, welcome to your jobs, right? If you're asking people to do things and they don't want to do them, what's their level of commitment, right? Do they really want to go in and fight a war over a relatively small country and take it over because Putin wants it? Some of them probably do, right? Some of them are probably ingrained in that. Like we're literally going to get into this next week, which I'm excited about, to kind of deciding what to do and when. So that's a good point, huh?
So I noticed that he also brought up like the similarities between the war currently going on and what happened to Vietnam. So I'm just gonna say that back then, like we also didn't have like a lot of the superpowers like trying to back us. I think Russia was like just backing like economically,
Yes.
like in a military way. So I'm just saying that if it pans out like what happened in the past, then we just let them fight it out until it's over.
Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of see this sit and wait. And when I hear that from legislators, like, let's see what happened, and I'm like, well, that seems awfully risky. But it may absolutely be the right move based on what's going on, and then other countries get involved.
I think it's an unwinnable war really for Russia, because if they're willing to fight this hard, like who says you take over and they don't go to guerrilla tactics for the next 50 years?
Yeah, and I think that's the major concern, right, is what happens next. So to me, that's the hard part. Do we get involved and we stop it because what they're doing is wrong? If we don't, do they keep going? Like, what are they going to try to grab next? Who are they going to attack next? And I think that's where you're finally seeing Europe really respond. Germany has stayed out of things for decades, right, and has really shifted gears in the last few days from what I've seen. And I think that's astonishing. So, yeah.
I think there might be an overthrow of Putin.
Oof.
It doesn't seem like his people are super fond of him right now. I mean, of course, this is all hearing from media, but I don't know.
There's a lot of mixed reports on that, of people who think they know what Putin's thinking, and then people who have actually met him. And I don't think anyone knows. If you saw the meeting he had recently with his own economic advisors, you see the picture of the table he was at? It's like as long as this room, and he's like 50 feet and like from them by himself. Like 6 of his own people were like way down the other end of the table. So I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think he's like lost it, like unhinged, but he might be extremely paranoid, to your point. I don't know.
Yeah. I was saying, what is the likelihood we could like take him out? Like literally, he's like the root and source of all these problems.
It's pretty obvious if Putin suddenly died, what happened.
Yeah, so, but like,
Let's just kill him.
Here's the problem with that. Here's the problem. Here's the hesitation with that, okay? It can always get worse. There's many times in history, if you can look at the history of Afghanistan, we took people out, we helped Afghanistan fight the Russians, and then we left. And it fell into absolute chaos, and that's what led to the rise of the Taliban. Okay? This country usually has great intentions and not the best execution. Vietnam is a prime example. Okay? We usually think we know what to do, and we do not listen to the locals. Right? And this is not just militarily. This is in agriculture. This is in engineering. We think we know better, and we don't always listen and respond well. So sometimes we have overthrown people, and then it got worse. So that can happen.
did we help with Ukraine overthrowing that other guy that didn't put it?
Well, the USSR, yeah, we were major players in that coming down. So post-World War II, they split up countries. And that's why we had an East and West Germany, Berlin Wall, and all that good stuff. And then it was tearing that down to start democracy in these other countries. Some of them, like the Ukraine, floated towards democracy, and some of them wanted to remain in communist organizations. So it's really important that you guys know some things about history. Right? Read some books that you're interested in, because we're literally just repeating shit. Right? And the goal is to not do that, which we'll talk about next week.
We've got a buddy who's a Marine, and he did one of the trips to Kyrgyzstan,
Mhm.
which is like they speak, I guess, Russian. I don't know if they speak Russian, but it used to be in the USSR. And he said that there was some farmer who was a Kyrgyzstan farmer and came in and like talked to the group of students or whatever, and was just like, yeah, I miss the USSR. I love them. They told me what to produce and gave me money for it, and they
Yep.
paid me well. And now I don't have that.
Correct.
And
There are people that love communism.
yeah, and that was shocking to hear that. I was like, does he like know? Like, does he understand? Like,
In
what's going on?
theory, it's a great concept. It has never worked.
Well, on paper, communist countries is best, but the worst to execute. Capitalism is the worst on paper, the best to execute.
Why doesn't communism work?
People suck.
There's no motive.
Say it again.
People suck.
Corruption. Those at the top. Okay, you can read all about the Gulag Archipelago and how many millions of people they killed in Russia, okay, while making it better. Okay, it has never worked where it's been practiced, because people are corrupt, unfortunately. And people are corrupt everywhere. It happens within capitalism organizations as well, right? So, yeah, it has not worked. God, there was somebody else that said. Anyway, questions or feedback?
I think we are getting a little bit more self-sufficient as far as semiconductors. I know the government put out a lot of contracts for starting more semiconductors.
Yeah, hopefully. Look, we learned a lot of things from. I hope we've learned a lot of things from COVID, right? Where's my industrial distribution majors? Any ID guys? I'm striking out all day. Do you guys know what just-in-time inventory is? That's what, if you're manufacturing something, if you're building cars, it costs money to have the parts, right? So you bring them in at the last minute, so you don't have to spend time and money on storing it. It's called just-in-time inventory, which a lot of Starbucks does it, and Toyota does it, and all that stuff. Well, when the shit hits the fan and things stop running smoothly, it all goes to hell, right? And that's what we've seen in the last 2 years. And what's unnerving, like my wife teaches junior high, and they were talking about Russia and Ukraine, and their immediate response was, "Is school going to get closed?" Because of COVID. Like they're trained that if something goes wrong, everything shuts down, right? Which has not been beneficial. So that's what we need to be aware of, and that's why I wanted to flesh this. I don't care what you guys think. I do, but I don't. Doesn't matter. And I don't want to influence you guys. But something's going to happen down the road, and it's going to fall to you guys. It'll be some unexpected problem to solve. And it's not easy. These are hard solutions and questions to ask. And it's going to fall to you guys. What else? We got a few minutes left. Of anything, free range. I want to send you off all depressed. Huh? Nuke 'em? Blow 'em up, Han says. I love it. Good. What else? Anything in life? Things you worry about? Graduating? Jobs? It's not going to matter when Aristotle's in charge. Blow 'em up.
What's worrying me about this whole predicament is cybersecurity.
Yes.
I mean, like, when I was watching everything go down on CNBC, they pulled in so many, professionals and predictions regarding the actual U.S., and all of them said we're unprepared compared to Russia or China when it actually comes to like technological warfare.
And here's the other dilemma. There's the group Anonymous, the hacker group Anonymous, who said they were going to go after Russia. Do we want them picking a side? Because they get to do what they want, right? And so they're judge, jury, and executioner. Does that mean they're right? In the eyes of the world, probably, but what if they don't side that way? What if they're like, oh, Russia's got a good point. It used to belong to them. And that's what can happen. So, yeah, valid.
Going on that, so I work at Houston Methodist in the Med Center in Houston, and our management told us, and of course this is not directly from the source, but our management told us that Texas Children's Hospital's documenting system got hacked by Russia because they're a major hospital system, the BNEZ.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
It does?
I mean, hacking is more and more common. Yeah, the cyber stuff is, and that's what organizations rely on. And then it happened last year with the oil companies. Yeah. Mike?
I saw that the Ukrainian, I guess, government or military, whomever, was doing a big push to basically get like the world to help them, and they called it the Ukrainian IT force or something like that. Basically, it was like I was looking at it because I'm a tech management major, so I thought it was a little interesting. But I was like looking at it, and they basically just had like a giant like chat, and they like sent out like, hey, go do a DDoS, which is distributed denial of service attack on like all these Russian websites.
Yeah.
And if you clicked any of those Russian websites, they all didn't pop up because it was basically they flooded the server. Just like it, like whenever you go to register or something, and then the howdy's down, same concept. There's just a ton of people flooding the server. But it was really cool to see that. I don't know if that was the Ukrainians that did that. I don't know if it was anonymous that did that. I don't know if it was just some random dude in freaking Uganda that jumped on his phone and like did that. I don't know.
So
It's
I have a
interesting.
couple Air Force buddies who are pilots, so they get to travel like for free, and they do it all the time. And they were going to go to a soccer game in Russia, and they got on a Russian website looking to buy tickets, and their bank account went down to zero within a few hours because of the site that they went on. They had access, and he jumped on his bank, and he's like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. You just see it going down to zero as they took all the money. It was astonishing.
Wait, so what happened to you? Like,
It's insured, so it's protected, but yeah, just from going on a soccer website to go to a game in Russia. And then we're like, yeah, maybe we're not going to go. So yeah, happens a lot. Yes, sir.
I heard a report this might be fake of like some people trying to like make like a militia force and travel to Ukraine.
Look, I used to live in Montana. I would not be surprised. Yeah, I mean, I think that's people's natural reaction. You want to help, right? You want to stand up and fight. If you look at Iraq and Kuwait, Kuwait was not a country that we were obligated to protect, but we decided to. Now, you can argue the interest as to why, but that's something we decided to do. So I think it's very hard for Americans to stand back now, but we're also very calculated of whose lives we're going to risk and for what, and what's the outcome. Anything else?
We could take over Ukraine instead of Russia and maybe treat them a little better, and in exchange we can have the natural resources.
Would we do that?
No.
Probably.
Would we do it better
Than Russia?
than the Ukraine?
Oh, I don't know, but we could get some out.
Corrupt government
I don't think
system in the
Russia
entire world.
would be lower step.
Pretty.
Is ours perfect? Is ours a lot better?
I think ours is better.
It was, but they've moved towards democracy, and that's the hard part. It's the genuinely hard part. Because there is corruption everywhere. That's why regime overthrows happen. Was this valuable?